Good evening and welcome to Democratic Television, a program where we discuss current events and issues that connect with our democratic values. My name is Lisa Plawchan and I will be your host this evening. Tonight we have a very exciting show for you. We're going to be talking about the Knoxville Women's March 2.0 that took place this last weekend on Sunday, January 21st. Joining me tonight are three of the incredible organizers that actually need no introduction whatsoever, Ms. Kendy Alter, Kimberly Peterson, and Caroline Mann. These ladies are with the Knoxville Women's March Coalition, and they are the lead organizers for the Knoxville March that brought out 14,000 people into downtown Knoxville, which is pretty amazing. Thank you so much for being here and for leading this inspirational movement. The community really appreciates everything that you have done. Let's just jump right in, and I want to know, we've kind of gone through a couple days since the march. I think we're about 4 days out since the march, and I want to know, how are you feeling now?
I feel great. I'm super energized. I've tried to stay off of social media and just kind of walk around and sort of get a sense for where everybody is at and how they're feeling, just listening to people talk, and I'm so impressed with the amount of people that showed up and how many people are actually, now we're talking about this, we're having a conversation, we can say it out and open.
Yes.
And that's been really energizing for me.
Yeah, I completely agree that it's nice to be able to be vocal with your voice and
Yes.
not kind of, were you at the march?
Yes.
Like, I was at the march!
Yeah.
We need some sort of secret handshake.
Right.
Yeah. How are you feeling, Kimberly?
I'm energized as well. I mean, I think I've been driving them a little crazy with all these ideas that I have since then of all these wonderful things we could start doing immediately yesterday. And but yeah, I'm glad to see that we have so many people that really want to be engaged in issues that are very important in our community. So
Yes, I completely agree. Caroline, how are you feeling?
I'm the same. I think my feet are approaching the ground now. I feel like I've been floating just
Coming
a
off
little
your
bit.
high.
Exactly. But again, this is an energizing experience. It's very empowering, both from the organizing sense to know that we can recognize a problem and we can do something about it.
Yeah.
You just take the reins.
Yeah.
And also that there are so many other people who feel that same compulsion to do something, to get involved. And I think they're beginning to recognize that they have a voice,
Yes.
and that to exercise their voice, they need to come out in numbers and support each other,
Right.
support candidates who stand for what they believe in, so we can re-steer back to a better path.
And one thing I forgot to mention at the beginning was really this march was to celebrate our successes from this past year, of which there were many, and we're going to get into that in a little bit, but also the power to the polls, getting people to go out and vote in midterm elections, have candidates that run. I actually read, and I think for me, I was just wanting to read everything, and I'm sure you guys were the same. I was just soaking up everything and reading about all the marches that had happened, across the country. But the one fact that stuck with me was the influx of people wanting to run for office. Emily's list, I think, got 220,000 women saying that they were interested in running for office. And I don't know if that would have happened without the first Women's March. So how would you compare the two marches, the feeling and kind of the mission behind the two?
I think for me, last year's march was born out of an immediate reaction of both fear and anger.
Yes.
So to have a positive message, and we still kept last year's march positive about, we're standing for women's rights, and it was always for something.
Right.
But this year, having we decided that we wanted to deliberately call out the achievements and successes that women in the community have had.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was amazing. I mean, women have always done this kind of work, whether it's behind the scenes or in front of the camera. But now being able to recognize it and hearing from some of the honorees that they felt really appreciated and just to be acknowledged was fuel to keep them going.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody needs an atta girl every now
Yeah.
and then. So
Right.
it was nice to be able to give that.
Yeah. And I think that there were a lot of people in the crowd that walked away thinking, oh, I can do this. I can do this. They felt that empowerment that you were talking about. So I thought that was something that was a little bit different, because I know the first one for me personally too, it was almost, okay, I can come out of my shell after the election. So it was, from an emotional standpoint, it was a little bit different. Do you have any memorable experiences from this past March on Sunday?
Oh my goodness, there's a ton of memorable experiences. My mother was there,
Oh,
and the look on her face every time I'd look over her was just priceless. She was so proud.
as she should be.
She's amazing. My favorite moment actually is when Kimberly was talking, and she was presenting each of our Resistor Awards, and she had this chant going, and I was watching the crowd, and she'd say, you know, we'll show up, and they'd say it with her, and just seeing that sea of people out there, and you could hear it. I mean, the sound was deafening from where we were on the podium, and I had a big grin on my face, holding that bullhorn, trying to get some extra sound out there, and it was so energizing to me. I was like, you know what? We will hold this bullhorn all day long if we need to. That is
Your
just
one arm is a little
That's
bit
right.
stronger than
It
the
is.
other.
I feel like, yeah. I've got,
Look at those guns.
Yeah, right there. Yeah, right there.
Do you two have a favorite experience from this past March, or favorite memory?
I really enjoyed the conversations I had with people right after the march. A lot of people approached me, and I approached a couple of different groups that I hadn't seen at past marches or even past events in Knoxville. So knowing that they felt it was important to come out and support our movement was very special and heartwarming, but also hearing from them that they have a need from us as well, and that's to go out and support them in causes that are important to them. So it was an educational experience, a fueling experience. So those are my favorite moments.
Yeah. Kimberly?
I think, you know, there were two things that struck me. First of all, as we stood on the stage, we looked out and we saw, you know, a lot of young people with signs. I know you brought your children. Several people brought their children. As the crowd got ready to go, there was a group of teenagers behind the stage as they were exiting, and they were just really fired up. And I asked where they were from, and they were from the Cott County Young Democrats,
Wow.
which is a very conservative. I grew up in Morristown. Newport, you know, is right. Cott County is adjacent to us, and it's a very conservative community. And so to see them all fired up, that was really pretty amazing, because you know, there is a voice out there, but I don't know that they've always been empowered to kind of stand up. I think we've kind of, well, this is the way it's always been, and to see young people in particular say, you know, we are diverse, we have these values all over the state, you know, and we're gonna fight for these values. I was just, I mean, giving them high fives as they took off, you know, it's like, it was wonderful. That was one of my favorite moments.
That was a great group, and that's the theme of the shirt was tomorrow there will be more of us.
Yes.
And to me, it was both a generational thing. You know, the young people are going to carry this wave forward, and also just numbers. There were more of us engaged this year than there have been in the past.
And you weren't expecting the 14,000 at all?
No.
It was double the size or triple the size of last year?
Almost triple.
Yeah,
I mean, we had what, about 5,600 last year, was it?
Well, I get various estimates. From somebody who works for the city and does events, they said we had at least 7,000 last year.
Oh, wow.
So,
Wow.
Yeah. So we safely doubled.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, you were talking about voices, and I want to show a quick clip of some of the people at the Women's March telling us why exactly it is they march and why they came out last Sunday.
And I march because our country was made up of immigrants. My father, my grandfather are immigrants. We're here legally, but we think everybody should be allowed to be a part of our America.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you so much. and I march because I support rights for all people, especially women, and I think that everybody deserves to be treated equally, and that includes equal pay, equal everything. That's right.
And I march because I believe everyone should have equal rights to go to Planned Parenthood, support people of LGBT community, and it's just a good thing to do.
I got a question though. Could you tell me what democracy looks like? You guys, hold on. We'll be your team just a few minutes.
Hello, it's Rick Staples, State Representative, District 15. This is a very momentous day because across the country, we have all been coming together, speaking out. The Women's March is needed, it's important. We are in tumultuous times in our nation. The disrespect, the discord, the verbiage, the abuse that's been going on for years, it has to stop.
So there you heard some of those voices, and they were all a little bit different, and it was, I think you could say that everybody came out for different reasons, and it was the same for the first march too. And after the first march, I think a lot of people thought, can this sustain itself? Is this just a moment? Is this just an event, or is it a movement? And how did you know it was going to be more than just a one-off event?
I think personally, Kendy and myself, we went to DC last year, so we took 4 buses of folks up to DC, and we had women getting on that bus that were, you know, in their 60s, that had never been to a protest and had never been to anything like this before. And they'd never been out of Knoxville. So many of the women who joined us had never been to Washington, D.C. So they were leaving their comfort zones to get on a bus to say something. And that's when I knew it was a movement. And also once we got up there, I've, you know, participated in resistance things before, but it's always been isolated around a particular issue. You know, we're going to fight this or we're going to fight that. But being up there, seeing so many different social justice causes coming together under one sort of umbrella, that's when I knew we had something special. It was, okay, nothing's like this has really been done before, and people were getting out of their comfort zones and saying enough is enough. You know, it was a wake-up call, and so we saw that over the last year. As we said, we had, you know, the Resistor of the Year awards that, you know, even out of a really tough year where a lot of our values were being attacked, a lot of our neighbors were being attacked, we came out, you know, we showed up, and we had some successes. I mean, the special elections in 2017, where we had, you know, first transgendered elected official, and we had our first Sikh mayor, and we had, you know, all these huge things, and locally here, our city council, you know, we have 4 women on the city council, and, you know, that's when you know, okay, we're fired up, we're ready to go, and we're really going to keep this going. So, yeah, it's definitely a movement. I think 2.0 just really reinforced it. So, I think the horses left the gate, and it's not going to be corralled anytime soon.
No, definitely not. The Women's March Coalition formed after the last event, like officially formed, and you guys have kind of grown and developed that and led several other marches throughout the course of the year. Can you just tell us a little bit about the goals and the mission and where you see the Women's March Coalition East Tennessee going? And
Sure. So, like you said, we formed out of these sister marches from last year. I helped coordinate the UT Sister March on campus. And then Caroline, I think if we had known each other at the time, we probably would have done one big unified march, but we didn't know. We were planning in tandem, and we didn't meet until after the fact even, I think.
wow, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Oh
So
my goodness.
it might have been a bigger, well, I don't know. We had a great turnout at UT, and I was so excited when I saw the numbers from the Knoxville March last year. So we all kind of got together afterwards, and we thought, you know, there are so many great organizations here already that have been on the front lines for years and years and years. They do great work. we have all these people we've motivated, managed to get together all these fantastic people, and now they're fired up and they're ready to do something. Let's send them in the right direction.
Yeah.
We'd like to be able to do that. So rather than reinvent the wheel, what we're looking to do is partner and lock arms with all those organizations in town that are already doing those kinds of things. And then being able to funnel marchers that maybe are new to this kind of thing, have never done it before, and give them a place to go. You know, if you're interested in a particular cause, we probably have somebody who's been doing that for 30 years. Let us connect you with them.
Yes.
So that they can get the numbers that they need to get their job done.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a great direction to see that it's heading in, and those connections, especially for the people that are just kind of coming out into the political realm, they appreciate all that kind of the help there. So one of the themes, the other central theme was power to the polls for this march, and I think it's really important to talk about that this is an election year, midterm elections, which historically we don't generate a strong voter turnout. But let's talk a little bit about what the Women's March is maybe doing to help continue this momentum of getting people fired up to vote in the midterm elections.
Okay, well, I think it's alarming that Tennessee is 50th in the nation in voter turnout.
That is
So
not a
that's-
statistic to be proud of, is it?
No, that's not. But I am prepared to nag everybody continually through 2017 to get them to the polls. And I think we have a pretty loud voice to do that with.
And a bullhorn.
And several bullhorns.
We have two now.
Yes. So we can be loud and obnoxious. I think one of the messages we want to have to encourage people to get to the polls is both educate yourself. There's many resources in town. The League of Women Voters is a fantastic resource for just information about candidates, for being, getting registered if you're not.
Yeah.
So I guess it's a two-pronged drive or maybe a multi-pronged drive to be sure you're registered.
Right.
To understand if there are hurdles in the way of you becoming registered, how can you overcome those? And then informing people of the fact that there are elections coming up, so be visible.
Right.
Get yard signs for the candidates you support, get their bumper stickers, get names out there that wakes people up to the fact that there is actually an election coming up. Support your candidates. They need your people power, they need your financial support.
Right.
So we're going to encourage people to do that. But basically I'm going to nag people for many months.
Yeah, well, I know I'm doing that nagging right now, probably annoying a lot of the people, because this is a progressive movement, so we need some good, solid Democratic candidates, and I think we have a list of offices that are open for 2018 here on a local and state level, where we do still need some candidates, some Democratic candidates to file and run. So the deadline for filing for local races is February 15th, and the deadline for the state races is April 5th. There are several other races that are also happening, but we do have Democratic candidates for the ones that are not shown here. So if there is any interest, you could get in touch with the League of Women Voters, you can get in touch with the Knox County Democratic Party, the Women's March Coalition. So there are lots of resources here, as you were talking about, because we need people to run so that we have someone to vote for when we do go to the polls, when we flood those polls and get people out there. Any predictions for 2018? What would you like to see happen?
I would like to see this energy expand. I'd like us to enfold more groups and for us to start showing up in support in large numbers for groups who need our support and have not probably traditionally had it. So I know there's frustration out there among a lot of groups. Where have you been for the last however many years?
And why are you just showing up now when it's an election year?
Yes. So we're trying to get better at that. I know all of us have had many conversations about that.
Yeah.
But I think I'm still excited about the trajectory that we're on. I've looked up some numbers because I'm a numbers geek. There are 36 gubernatorial races this year. 49 Democratic women are running for those seats.
Wow.
That's awesome. There have only ever been, at the most, 9 female governors and 6 currently. So we've got a big opportunity.
Yes,
We
we
can
do.
take over some state houses. In Congress, 183 Democratic women are challenging incumbents, which is
Fantastic.
awesome. And there are 366 women total running for House seats and 41 for Senate. So that sort of energy and the realization, I think, that's hit a lot of people that I can do this.
Yes.
You know, why not me?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think when you were asking about how to get people to the polls or how to get people to engage and then throwing up the list of seats that need Democratic candidates, I think it's important for us, if we recognize leadership in one of our colleagues, to ask them to run.
Yes.
I think that's a very important step we need to take.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and there are
Encourage them.
resources out there.
Yes.
You know,
Training
There's
resources.
tons of training
Yes.
resources. There's a huge support network. If you're excited about doing something like that, get in touch with us. We can put you in on the right path. I mean, anybody who wants to run, do it. You know, we have a voice here. Let's use it.
Yes. And I think one thing we were talking about earlier too, you have a grassroots army from all
Yes.
these different groups that could definitely help get out the vote and get people to the polls, help spread your message, help build name recognition. I think this is a true grassroots movement, and it's different than maybe any time in history. I know I've not seen anything like this. So we have a few minutes left, and I just want to know kind of, how do you think the Women's March is going to be written about in history?
I'm looking forward to our exhibit in the Smithsonian.
Yes.
Where we have
Yes.
the signs
Yes.
and the pictures of the kids out there on their parents' shoulders holding and the little fists in the air.
Yes.
I think it's just going to be, you know, trying to capture the groundswell of emotion. I'm getting all emotional just talking about it.
Absolutely.
I think we're gonna be written down or recorded as it's like a pressure valve releasing.
Sure.
I think people realized something was going awry, and millions of people stepped up to try to fix it.
Yes.
Agreed.
For me personally, I hope, you know, Caroline spoke to it earlier, I really hope that when, you know, 20 years out, how many years out, that people look to the Women's March as being one of the key ingredients of bringing groups together. We've had social justice movements that have been very fragmented before, and, you know, that's been, I think, purposely. I mean, I think that there have been agitators and infiltrators that have tried to keep us divided, and because we're going to be this unstoppable force if we can get it together. And, you know, we know as organizers it's a criticism that we accept and we're listening to about it being a white feminist, you know, middle class movement. And feminism historically has been, you know, white women asking people of color, you know, the LGBTQ community, other people to come and join us. Right. And I think what I want the Women's March movement to be historical is this was the movement that was the shift, that all of a sudden white women started showing up for people that had been disenfranchised from the system, and you know, really making those changes. And we are very committed to making that happen here locally and nationally. So that's what I hope. I hope that, you know, in history, it's, you know, we're going to be working together so much that it's like no one remembers a time when you know, our social justice movements were fragmented. I hope that we have a part in that.
Yeah. I know for me too, I think that is so moving for me, that I really want to see those connections happening. I want my daughters, who all of us have, you know, been there with all the kids, and I want them to, you know, be reading the history books of their kids and saying, I was there, I did that, and I was holding up signs, and having them be that part of history, and knowing at such a young age that they can use their voices and even at, you know, in their schools and things like that. So, well, is there anything else that we've forgotten to discuss or that you'd like to add about about the march, or we do have some photos of the march so you can see the sheer numbers. Bruce Hamish took some fantastic photos showing the depth of the crowd, and that's not even the near 14,000, but you can see that the streets were lined, and I didn't actually march. I was cleaning up the tables.
But Caroline and I didn't get to march either.
But I had heard
I was leading the way.
Yeah.
I had heard at some point they crossed over.
They did.
The people crossed over because it was just so large.
The head met the tail several times over.
Yeah.
I just kept telling people, I was like, we're back at the beginning, go again. And they did. They did. They just kept going.
Yeah.
And we had another person with a bullhorn, Mac Archer. If you were out there, then you probably heard her because she is a force to be reckoned with.
And she has a fan club, which
Yeah,
I
she
love.
does. She has a fan club now.
Love.
So kudos to Mac. We said we'd give her that bullhorn, and she could do it again.
Yeah.
So look for her next time.
And the signs that were out there
Yes.
were just so amazing. I mean, I could
They're
just,
so
I kind of
creative.
want a coffee table book with
Yes.
all the signs.
Yes, absolutely.
So if there are any photographers out there that can do a collection, and all of us are friends with Caroline Rowcliffe. She made it in a fantastic
Yes.
video that we would have loved to have shown tonight, but you can go on to YouTube and find her video from the Knoxville Women's March 2.0. It is really fantastic. Is there anything else that you would like to?
I think just next year we are aware of logistical issues that we had. We had to make some changes at the last minute, and we appreciated everyone that was very patient with us to kind of roll with it. So we are aware of the logistical challenges that we faced, and we are addressing those already. I mean,
Yes.
I think we're already looking to next year and a bigger venue.
I'm
but-
already getting goosebumps that you're
Yeah.
already planning for next year.
I'm excited.
We have to have you all show up again.
Yes.
We don't
Like
want to
my-
book this big venue and have 100 people show up. So
Right.
you
So-
got to you got to come out again. But
Yes.
but we appreciated everyone's patience. There were a lot of people that couldn't hear, and it took a little while to get in. But that's the beauty of being with kind of hippy dippy people.
Yeah.
That you kind of roll with it. So just know that we are aware of those concerns, and that we are looking to next year to rectify that and to make it a really good March next year. So.
I wanted to thank some of the people who helped us this year.
Yeah.
Last year was pulled together so quickly that we didn't have a lot of things in place that we did this year. Aaron Sunday did a fabulous job.
The design,
Yeah,
which is
Shirts,
the
right
t-shirt
now,
design on
it's
the
hers.
backdrop.
So yeah, just capturing the feel. I mean, look at all the people, the crowd, and it was portentous. So she
Yeah.
did a great job. I
Yeah.
want to thank her a lot.
Yeah.
Borderland Tees printed the shirts for us.
Yes.
Burns Printing got us the bumper stickers. So, everybody wanted to help. And we got offers for help after the march. So we'll be calling next year.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. We
So it
need
was a-
people power.
Yes.
And it was a true community effort. It was very local and community driven, which
Yes,
is
it was.
fantastic. Well, you ladies did a phenomenal job, and I know that you talked about the issues of logistical issues, but for those of us that were there and just immersed in it, I didn't even pay attention to any of that.
Good.
I think you did a wonderful job, and we do have a lot to celebrate, and we're going to have a lot more to celebrate going forward. So we need to stay engaged and get involved in different issue groups with the Women's March Coalition, and we will make a difference in 2018. If you're not registered to vote, go register and think about running for office.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here. Good night, everyone.